Okay, so first real life question, and just a little bit of background for you. I went to my gynecologist and got a whole panel of blood work done to see where my hormones were at, where all these different things were at in my body, to kind of do it the conventional way. And then Dr. Elena is having me go through additional testing, like saliva, urinary testing, a poop test. We'll talk about that later.
Nothing wrong with that. We all do it.
And so she has she has partial bits of my medical history, and we'll be giving her more and more as we do this series. So anytime that she's answering a specific question, it's about me. It's not about you necessarily, just so that you know. So we've done all the disclosures and paperwork and all that kind of thing.
But it can certainly be you.
It can apply, right? So I always, the week before my period, get one or two like big pimples right along here on my cheeks. And I feel like at 33 years old, I should not be seeing any kind of acne anymore. Like, I wash my face, I take care of my skin. Why is this happening to me, and how can I get it to stop?
Okay. There are a lot of things involved when it comes to acne. So acne is not only hormonal. It has to do with diet, stress, I should say stress number one, and then diet.
Stress is first, really.
Yes, stress is first to number 10 or even more, because stress can definitely impact our hormone levels. They create that discrepancy in that hormone balance between estrogen, progesterone, and the remainder androgens. Also, dietary style, dietary choices in general, a lot more processed foods, simple carbs, refined carbohydrates, especially since women crave more carbohydrates in their luteal phase, that second phase of the menstrual cycle. And it's easy to go for Nutella and some junk candy as opposed to eating a fruit. Well, that further amplifies things and can create and lead to acne. Some women may not have enough progesterone in the second part of their cycle, or their hormones are dropping acutely, and that leaves those androgens unopposed. So you may have hormonal acne secondary to that imbalance in the hormones, especially 5 to 7 days prior to your period. And that imbalance, so it's not the level of the hormone, but the imbalance between all the sexual and steroid hormones is what leads to acne.
Okay, so I really do eat relatively clean. I mean, I know there's ways that I can clean it up even more, but especially now considering what we're kind of talking about and going through, I'm not reaching for candy during PMS. I'm not reaching for salty stuff either. It's more like figs and dates and whole foods and things like that. So I don't think, and I actually don't feel very stressed either. I really don't, but maybe I don't realize it.
Correct.
She's like, your stress tolerance is high, but your body knows.
21st century has really raised our level of tolerance for stress. We have become so accustomed to what is considered normal, right? We get used to how we feel, and the familiarity of that is very normal, right? It's the new normal, but that shouldn't be like that, because when we test them, for example, accurate testing for cortisol levels and for stress is not through serum, but through saliva studies. Cortisol and adrenal stress response react in a circadian rhythm. So we need to capture that with levels of cortisol in saliva to follow that circadian rhythm. So when we see that cortisol levels are through the roof, but we're not really feeling that because we are experiencing it, but we have become so familiar to being stressed out that it becomes the new normal. This is how I feel every day. There's nothing out of the ordinary, right? But it's still that baseline stress. And for a woman, we all know, especially the ones that have children, they have to juggle a lot between taking care of themselves, which is pretty much moved to number 10 priority list, point on the priority list. There's juggling family, driving kids to school, picking them up, taking them to extracurricular activities, performing on the job, being able to finish your tasks on time or whatever deadline projects that you may have. All of that is a constant stress. Well, our adrenal glands only have so much resilience. And if we don't build up to strengthen that resilience, it leaves us operating on fumes. And since we have no choices, we have to continue because there's nobody else to take our place to do those particular tasks that we were handling. We get used to feeling stressed and we don't think that it's anything out of the ordinary. So that alone can contribute to imbalances in the hormones that do create symptoms. Now, if you have a pathway, for example, a genetic predisposition to favor a 5-alpha reductase pathway, you would be pushing those androgens towards a stronger form of androgen, and that can be responsible for acne. And if there is imbalance, progesterone is our natural hormone that decreases the activity of that 5-alpha reductase pathway. And I know I'm speaking gibberish now to a lot of the audience.
No, I mean, I totally.
I apologize about that, but there's no way of simplifying it because it
Mhm.
needs to be directed to the cause. So if testosterone gets pushed to DHT, dihydrotestosterone, which is anywhere between 3 to 10 times stronger than testosterone. And now testosterone remains unopposed towards the end of the cycle because your progesterone is low. Maybe you had an anovulatory cycle, which means you did not ovulate, so you didn't have much production of progesterone. And we can describe that in another session. What does it mean to have an ovulatory or an unovulatory cycle? But progesterone is a natural blocker or hormone that decreases the enzymatic activity. Instead of promoting it so much to the stronger testosterone, it will remain more in the testosterone stage. But that also creates imbalance. So if you don't have estrogen, progesterone, and the rest of the androgens at baseline, not baseline, ignore that, my mistake. If you do not have a balance between these hormones, any discrepancy in that balance will create symptoms. For some women, it can create cramping. For others, it will create acne. It just depends which pathway is being favored.
So to sum it up, there's a reason why I experienced some pimples right here during my cycle. And it's a sign that something is imbalanced. We don't know what it is, but something is imbalanced.
But we can test.
But if things were balanced correctly, then no zits would likely be happening on a cyclical basis.
Correct. And when it's cyclical, it's even more so related to a hormone imbalance.
I gotta kick that proactive to the curb. I don't need it. Well, thank you very much for that explanation.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Shall we wrap up and do another one?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll see you in our next episode.